Imagine this: a king, renowned for his faith and leadership, takes one fatal misstep, a census that invokes divine wrath. But why? Why would counting the people bring about such devastating punishment? Today, we unravel the complex and controversial story of King David's census and the divine judgment that followed. Stay tuned as we explore hidden truths and ask questions that challenge traditional interpretations. Before we dive in, what do you think? Was David's sin simply about the census, or was there something more sinister at play? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll reveal the deeper truth at the end of this video. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you won't miss out on any of our thought-provoking biblical analyses. King David, a man after God's own heart, decides to take a census of Israel and Judah. It seems like a routine action for a king, but this census wasn't just about numbers. It was about trust. David's decision was seen as a shift in his reliance on God to relying on human strength, the size of his army. The Bible tells us that this displeased God, but what was the real reason behind God's anger? Some scholars argue that the census was an act of pride, a moment where David wanted to boast about the size of his kingdom. Others believe it was a lack of faith, a move to prepare for war without seeking God's guidance. But what if there's another layer to this story? What if this census was a reflection of the deeper moral and spiritual decline in Israel during David's reign? Here's where it gets controversial. Was David entirely at fault, or was this act influenced by a divine plan to expose the weaknesses within Israel? After all, the Bible states that God's anger was kindled against Israel, and he allowed David to be tempted. Could it be that God intended to reveal a collective sin, a broader issue within the nation, rather than just punishing David's individual act? Let's take this further. What if the punishment wasn't just about David's census, but about something more profound? When the prophet Gad offers David a choice between three punishments, famine, fleeing from enemies, or a plague, David chooses the plague, placing himself and his people at God's mercy. This decision raises more questions. Was this a test of David's humility? Or was it a way for God to remind Israel of their dependence on him rather than their king? Here's a question for you. If you were in David's position, which punishment would you choose? And do you think David's choice showed wisdom or desperation? Drop your answers in the comments, and let's discuss. I'll share my interesting thoughts on this towards the end of the video, so keep tuned until the end. Now let's talk about the aftermath. The plague strikes and 70,000 people lose their lives. But then, something remarkable happens. David intercedes for his people, offering a sacrifice at the threshing floor of Araunah. This act stops the plague, and God's mercy is revealed. But why a threshing floor? Why not the temple or another holy place? Could this location symbolize something deeper about repentance and divine intervention? Here's a perspective you may not have considered. Some theologians believe the threshing floor represents a place of judgment, where grain is separated from chaff. In a spiritual sense, it's where sin is exposed and dealt with. Could it be that David's sacrifice on this very spot was not just a plea for mercy, but also a prophetic act, foreshadowing the ultimate sacrifice that would come through his lineage, Jesus Christ? As we approach the end of our story, one lingering question remains. Was the punishment truly justified? Did the people of Israel deserve such harsh consequences for David's decision? Or was this a case of divine overreach? I'll share my thoughts on this, but first, I want to hear from you. What do you think? Type your answers in the comments below. Now, as promised, here's my take. I believe this story is less about the act of taking a census and more about the heart behind it. It's a powerful reminder that even the most revered leaders can falter, and when they do, the consequences can ripple through an entire nation. But it's also a story of redemption, of how one man's repentance can turn away divine wrath and restore favor. The threshing floor becomes a place of mercy, just as our moments of deepest failure can become the foundation for God's greatest work in our lives. Did this story challenge your understanding of divine justice? If so, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with others who might find it thought-provoking.